Welcome back to the Speed Chess Championship presented by Coinbase. The second semifinal is in the books, and we are all set up for a rematch of last year's final between Magnus Carlsen and Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura, who joins us in the studio. Hikaru, thank you for joining. Congratulations on the win. First question, coming into the match, were you targeting the bullet as the segment of the match where you thought that you can make the biggest gains?
Well, I mean, I think I've been saying this probably for the last 3 years that I feel like in any match that I play in the Speed Chess Championship, if I'm not down by more than 1 or 2 games going into the bullet, I think I have great chances to win no matter what. So it's not as though I was targeting bullet, but I did have the mindset, especially after I lost the first couple of games to start the match, where I simply wanted to keep it as close as possible until we got to that portion.
Yeah, speaking of essentially turning points in the match and having that, that small deficit before the bullet, it felt like the end of the 3+1 segment, that really clutch win you had with F3 check and, eventual Queen G3 infiltration in the Sicilian. Did you feel like that was a turning point in the way that we felt it as commentators?
I mean, I think that obviously in retrospect, if I lose that final game, which I think I probably should have at a couple of different moments, the whole bull situation could have been different. I think I still would have had great chances to win even if I'd lost that final game. But certainly being down 1 going into the bullet was about as good as I could have asked for, considering what I did at the start of the 3+1. I mean, I think that in the 3+1, I started out with a nice one, I think with black, if I remember, and then I messed up the rook and knight's end game horribly to lose that rook and knight in 3 versus rook knight 3, which I never should have lost. And it kind of went downhill from there. And, a lot of credit has to go to Maxime for how well he played and keeping it together. But I think certainly that final game of the 3+1, I did something really wrong in the opening. I think I played some early knight a5, and then I had to go king takes e7. And I mean, that was sort of just I don't want to say a tilt game. It was just like get this portion over pretty much. And I was a little bit lucky in that game. But, again, at the end of the day, I feel like going to bullet, if I'm not down by more than 1 or 2, I always will have great chances.
Do you think it's fair to say that Maxime played too quickly in the bullet? Would you say that overcompensating for the reduced time control is a big reason why SCC participants struggle in the bullet? Is there kind of over-adjusting that tends to happen?
Well, I mean, I think Magnus said this. I don't know if he said it recently or it was in past SCCs, but I think Magnus said there's a huge difference between 1+1 and 1+0. And I think in 1+1, there's this real urge to just like move very, very quickly. I mean, I think there's some limit you have to keep yourself above, at least in the first like 10 to 15 moves. But yeah, Maxime was basically playing like straight up 1-0, and there were several games in the bullet where it just fell apart really, really quickly for him. I was also able to get a lot of sort of end games, and there were certain games, like there's this game where I got this whole king side which was closed, which went on forever, and it actually kind of reminded me a lot of a couple of the games I played against Magnus in the Bullet Chess Championship, where you're just maneuvering, and eating up a lot of clock. And so I think Maxime probably overcompensated, but once he started losing like 2-3 games, then it's very difficult because you're behind in the match. You feel like you have to win games quickly. You can't use all your time because you're losing time on the clock as well. The timer, I mean, for the match. So it's hard to judge, but I think certainly 1+1, it's not as fast as it seems. There were a couple of moments where I actually was able to stop and think for 5 to 10 seconds, but overall it's just very difficult switching back and forth between all the different time controls.
So MVL obviously proved to be a very, very worthy opponent, particularly early on, but we now are going to have the final that the fans have essentially been clamoring for some time. Just looking forward, how do you anticipate the contours or the battle lines being drawn there? What do you think are the keys for you to be successful in that match?
Well, I mean, the first thing is that I get to play Magnus a lot. I mean, I think I'm playing him on Friday in the final, and I'm playing him on Monday in the Chess Champions Tour as well. So I'll get to play Magnus quite a bit in the next 3 days. I think looking at the match, it goes without saying that I'll have to play a lot better than I played today. I think today I started off very, very poorly in the first couple of games. Maxime was really, really sharp. So I'll have to play a lot better. If I do, I think I have chances. Obviously, I won last year. But Magnus obviously has been on a big run. So we'll kind of see how it goes. I feel like if I play to the best of my ability, I'll have great chances, especially if I can keep it close going to bullet. But again, and it's anyone's guess what will happen.
Hikaru, we know you're streaming, so we won't keep you much longer. We have 2 quick chat questions before we let you recover and rest from the match. First one from the real Urethra Franklin. Do you agree with Magnus's claim that we're just better at chess than the others, quote unquote?
Well, I mean, I think you have to put that into context. I think certainly in Bullet, it's proven to be true. I think the one thing that I didn't say about the 1+1 is that probably more so than anything else, there's a certain intuition. Like the moments when somehow I was able to sense when I needed to use time, the 1+1 was really, really critical today. And I think 2 or 3 of those games. And Magnus also has that ability where somehow he's able to like rein it in and he's able to think at critical moments. So I think in the 1+1, it's definitely, or 1+1 or 1+0, it's definitely true. I think as far as Blitz goes, I mean, maybe we're better on average, but I don't think the gap is that big. So I think that's slightly a little bit of an overstatement.
Yeah, here's another question from the chat for you, Hikaru. Krishna21234 is asking, did the cap make a difference in performance?
No, I don't think the cap made a difference at all. I think actually the only thing that made a little bit of a difference is like when I started out very well in 3+1, I know that there's a break every 30 minutes, but at some point I really need to use the bathroom very badly. And so I think like I played the C4, I think in the final game of that 3+1 before the break, and maybe even the game before that, where it's just like I was trying to move really, really quickly to get the games over with so I could go to the bathroom or we could get to the break at least. So that's maybe the one thing that made a difference. The cap definitely didn't, but those of you guys who are watching the streams in the early days, like late 2018 into early 2019, you probably will remember that cap because I have worn it before. So it's a hat that I thought would maybe be a little bit lucky for me. Probably didn't prove to be lucky, but I don't think it made that much of a difference. Oh, and actually, no, let me add one other point. The other thing I was going to say is, of course, the reason I wore the cap, of course, is because Magnus wore that ridiculous looking, was it a Puma cap or something the other day? So I felt like I had to do the same thing.
Fair enough.
Well, you mentioned 2018. I still remember Naka's knockouts, and the orange wall used to be a lot more barren. But how times have changed. Hikaru, we'll let you keep streaming. That was an amazing match.
I just wanted to add, like, can I just add two more
final.
things, Daniel? I just want to add 2 more things. Can I add 2 more things?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
I just want to add, I think when I look at the, when I look at these matches, all the matches against Magnus, of course, have been great, but I would say this match is right up there with the match against Ding Loren, of course, the epic battle I had. But there was also a match against Sergei Karyakin where I think I was down 1 game in the Bullet, maybe midway through the Bullet portion. It was also a really, really tight match. I don't even remember what year that was. But this match today was really a lot of fun. And then also the other thing I was going to say is, there's a very famous Steve Jobs quote, which is you can basically connect the dots looking backward, but you can't connect them looking forwards. And I was thinking it's kind of ironic that the 2017 Speed Chess Championship Finals held, I believe, in January of 2018. That actually, when I played Magnus in that match, I did play that basically in front of a live crowd of, I think, maybe like 100 people in South Africa. And it's kind of ironic in a way that was sort of a prelude to what everything would go on to become. So it's just thinking about all the matches against Magnus and thinking about how I actually played on a computer in front of people. It's been an amazing ride. So it's just been a lot of fun playing the SCC, and looking forward to the next match against Magnus on Friday.
Well, it's been amazing to watch you play, and it'll be an epic rematch from last year. Hikaru, have a good rest of your stream, and thanks again for joining us for the interview.
All right, see you guys. Bye.
Take care.